Alright, you know the drill. We're looking at 4 movies that were adapted from TV shows to see how good they do at representing the shows they're from, how they managed to raise the stakes and do things the show wasn't really capable of, and just seeing how they work on their own as a movie. Could any of these be enjoyable even if you've never seen the show? Well, let's find out. Starting Volume 3 with... Beavis and Butthead is probably the first show I'm covering in this series that I'm actually not that familiar with. I certainly have some knowledge of the show. I mean, the two are cultural icons to some extent, having a massively popular show that managed to come back twice from cancellation, and I've seen an episode or two of each comeback it's made along with its original airing. You know, I'm aware of Cornholio, I'm aware that Daria and technically Hank Hill originate from this series. I know a large chunk of the show was just them sitting on their couch and reacting to music videos. I'm aware of some of the show's production history and controversies. I'm aware of some of the references and parodies other shows did on Beavis and Butthead.
Go away, you disgusting excuse for a cartoon!
But in the grand scheme of things, I could count the number of episodes I've seen with my own fingers. I can't give an exact number, but it's a single digit for sure. It's certainly a show I can get some laughs from, but honestly, I think these two are just a little too annoying for me. It's mostly their laugh. On its own, I'm fine with it, but the repetition is what bothers me. Like, they don't ever stop and it just becomes grating at a point. This isn't really much of a critique of the show, but rather just me stating my own tolerance of the show. Obviously, the laugh is a big part of their character. But all in all, because of my lack of experience with the show, I wasn't really sure if I'd be able to go into this one and say if it was a good adaptation or not. For some of these shows, I'm definitely going to have to watch a lot of episodes, or maybe even all of them. Currently, I'm going through Venture Bros so I can watch that movie, and I feel like I do need to watch the entire thing before I watch the movie. Or at least I was watching it. Thank you, Max. I don't even think I'd be covering Beavis and Butthead Do America this early if it wasn't for the fact that this is the most requested movie I got. That and Big City Green, a show that I never even heard of prior to this series. I honestly didn't see that coming. I will say after watching it with the very little bits of the show I have seen, it does feel like the perfect way to represent the show as a movie. Maybe you can't take my word for it, but I see it. I mean, it has an incredibly intense plot surrounding the almost nothing motivation of the two main characters. Their TV is stolen and they want to find a new one. The only real escalation in their motivation is they think they might be able to score with this guy's wife. So that's their two motivations, find a new TV and score, nothing else. The rest of the movie is just them dicking around with little to no direction, and yet their actions keep affecting this more complex story. I've definitely seen this type of story done a lot of times, you know, characters affecting the plot in a major way without them even realizing it. It's a pretty common trope, but it is one that you can have a lot of fun with. It can be a really worthwhile experience, and I think Beavis and Butthead Do America does it really well. It's not the most amazing comedy I've ever seen, and it's probably not even something I'll watch a second time, but I did find myself laughing a decent bit. I love how they keep running into that old woman and how they manage to have an almost wholesome relationship simply because neither understand what the other is saying. I like that despite the fact they have such a small motivation in this movie, they still frequently forget what they're doing. I like the scene where they're laughing at one of the villains carrying a jack in the back of his car. Nearly an entire day passes and they're still amused by it, and really only use it to escape by accident.
I'm jacking off.
There's a lot of funny moments in there. Presentation-wise, it varies from looking like a slightly cleaner version of the show to having some really kick-ass animation. If somebody told me this movie was only made so they could do the trip scene, I would believe them. I was kind of hoping it would last a little longer of how much this scene has been hyped up for me over the years, but it's still a really cool scene and works from a character perspective too. I really like that Beavis says it looks like he's in a music video, since a big part of the show was them watching music videos. So for him to have that experience was kinda neat. This is definitely the best animation in the movie, but I think there's some other highlights too. The opening scene is really well animated, showcasing how much of a fucking nuisance these two characters are, getting some really interesting angles in there. I really liked the animation during the scene where they jump out of the trunk of a moving car. They got some really great action shots in there, mixing the very cartoonish reactions of Beavis and Butthead with the very realistic, horrifying car crashes that come as a result of this. But even when the animation isn't going for anything too crazy and it's just Beavis and Butthead with their regular stance and regular expressions, it's just funny to see them engaging with a story this big. Again, without even realizing it. The less expressive moments fits in with the humor really well. Do I have any problems with it? Well, I wasn't super into the villains if I'm being honest. I feel like they could have been a lot funnier, although I was surprised to hear Bruce Willis voice in one of them. I never knew he was in this. Despite only being an hour and 20 minutes, it can get a little bit repetitive. I mean, it's almost repetitive by design, so perhaps it works, but it doesn't help create something I really want to experience again. And this one's definitely a personal thing, but I really do just feel fucking bad for Tom. Like he didn't do anything to ignite the torture he receives in this movie, movie. The guy was just trying to take a trip with his wife, but I can kind of appreciate how mean-spirited it's willing to get. And it is funny how patriotic he is while also being incredibly fucked over by his own country. I just can't help but feel sad for him in that final scene. But hey, at least you got to evolve into Hank Hill eventually, who had a happier, I'd say happier life. It's a good movie though. I can see why people wanted me to cover it so badly, even if I am still surprised it's the most requested one I got. It's not going to be near the top of my list for the series, but it's one I'm glad I finally checked out. Oh, and one more thing, as someone who has only seen so many episodes, I do think the movie does a great job at being accessible to everyone. There's definitely references to the show, but the movie does a pretty good job at establishing who Beavis and Butthead are from the opening scene, and I don't think any of it would be hard to follow. They're pretty simple characters. I think you get the idea of what they're supposed to be really fast. If the show didn't even exist, I still think this would work as a movie. Regular show is at a bit of a disadvantage because the show is already crazy every episode. Finding a story to justify a movie with might be a bit challenging. Exit 9 being the last episodes of the final season probably would have made for a better film, one of them wrapping up the entire series and adding tons of lore to the show and its characters, and the other one is a celebration of the entire series up to that point. The movie doesn't have a bad angle, however. It focuses on a reality where Mordecai and Rigby aren't friends anymore, and the worst thing that Rigby has ever done. I do like it when these movie adaptations choose to focus on a relationship more than anything. Like, really take advantage of that runtime and stir things up a bit. I actually think that's one of the highlights of the Simpsons movie with Homer and Marge. I think the timing for this movie was good too, because we already know that Rigby can be a huge piece of shit, but we also see him and Mordecai kind of switch roles as the show goes on. Rigby starts trying to improve his life while Mordecai keeps making the same mistakes again and again, and even starts to resent Rigby for doing better. It makes it easier to rationalize forgiving Rigby for the shitty thing he did in this movie, since we did see him get better, but it also ties in very well to how he acted near the start of the show. I don't really like doing recaps of the plot in these, but I guess I'll give a little bit of context here. The movie is about a future version of Rigby showing up and telling the others that things are gonna get really bad, telling Rigby that he needs to confess a horrible thing he did in the past to Mordecai to avoid all of this, but Rigby, fearing it's going to destroy their friendship, doesn't want to do that. This horrible thing that Rigby did was preventing Mordecai to get into college after he got rejected himself, not wanting his friend to go on in life without him. The scene where Rigby reads his rejection letter is genuinely a sad moment. I think it would have been the saddest moment of the entire show if it wasn't for that finale.
The deans were obliged to select among candidates who clearly could do the minimum work required at CU. We hope you can understand our situation, if you can understand this letter at all.
I think the movie accomplishes its main goals well. It's even fun to get a past, present, and future version of these characters interacting with each other. They do a lot with it, and it makes for a good story. Good stuff. I will say, as for the other characters, Skips, Muscleman, Benson, and Pops, it does just feel like another episode of the show, but that was unavoidable. In terms of action and scenarios, I don't know how you can really upscale from the show. It's already so wild. Present and past Muscleman fighting each other is a fun scene, but they could have easily done that on the show. Hell, there's a chance they did, I don't remember. I guess something I would have liked to see from this movie would be an upgrade in the animation, but the movie doesn't even really attempt to do this. It looks identical to the show. A lot of TV show movies do, but a lot of the time they will at least try to get some interesting shots or do something with the score. Hell, in terms of a runtime, it barely qualifies as a feature film. It's like an hour long. But perhaps I'm just criticizing regular show for being something it's not. I do wish we could have gotten the animation upgrade that SpongeBob or Wild Thornberry's got, and maybe at least we could have gone for an hour and 15 minutes. But if this is the terms the movie has to exist on, I'm glad we still got it. Still, I do think it's possible for a TV show movie to find ways to create a more film-like experience without having the theatrical release budget. For example, I personally think that Steven Universe the movie is a great example of a TV movie done right. Like regular show, this only got a limited theatrical release. You were only going to see this on the big screen if you were a hardcore fan. But I feel like Steven Universe found ways to separate itself from the show. As example, they did something as simple as aging Steven up. This makes for an interesting new design for the character, as well as a slightly different version of the character. One who's grown up a bit and is a little bit more mature. The songs were a great way to make it feel like a movie. Every single one of them is super memorable, by the way. More on those later. The animation does match the show, but the shots and angles are a little bit more intense, and a ton of that comes from the newcomer and antagonist of the film, Spinell. On top of just being a very well-written antagonist that has a genuinely heartbreaking story that ties back to the show's overarching story very well, the way this specific character moves gives the movie a lot to work with. The song Other Friends had really fun with the character animation on Spinell and the camera movement in the scene. Independent Together has some really neat visuals that offer a brief recap of Pearl's entire journey on the show. True Kind of Love feels reminiscent of the show's theme song as we see Steven and the three gems finally reunited and being paired together again. And it has Steven climbing up this thing, which looks neat. They get a lot of good angles with this, really showcasing the scale of the crisis Beach City is facing. On top of that, Beach City is being destroyed and we see tons of the characters from the show in peril. The show did a lot of slice of life episodes with these guys, so it's not a town of random people anymore, but rather a town full of characters we got to know one by one with their own episodes of the show, which makes it a lot more impactful than just a town full of random people. I've heard a lot of people say the movie in a lot of ways is a great recap of the entire series, and I agree. We kinda have to redo a lot of character development that Garnet, Amethyst, and Pearl went through. Hell, same thing with Steven. I know that might sound a little tedious, but they do such a good job with it, and it ties in with the film's overall message very well. They also do this for Spinell, who actually spends most of the movie not even aware she's the antagonist, which was a really interesting angle to take. It's a movie that both enhances the show for me while also being a great celebration of what the show was up to this point. But it's not just a bunch of fan service. Spinell is definitely my favorite character in the movie, and they dedicate a lot of it to her. There's a lot of twists and turns of her journey in this movie, and it never gets dull. There's a moment where she remembers who she is and with Steven's help starts to accept what happened to her, and tries to right her wrongs. But it's not that simple. They show that someone who's been through that type of betrayal and abandonment isn't going to immediately be able to trust others again so easily. She is an antagonist, but she's a very sympathetic antagonist. I love both of her designs, and I love the way that they draw her. I love the goofy and dumb looking expression she has when she's in her more innocent form, and then when she remembers who she is, the more troubled expressions. I think one of my favorite scenes drawn-wise with her is just this moment where she's recalling a location from her past. At first reflecting back at it with a smile, but very quickly turn into a face of distraught remembering what happened to her there. Again, not too big on doing recaps for these. I'm gonna keep them to a minimum and assume that a lot of people have already seen this movie, or at the very least just want to get an idea of what it's like. But essentially this character Spinell ties in with Steven's mother, who's a major character on the show, and as my friend Mitzy once told me, kind of goes through reverse character development. The show starts off with her being this very well-respected figure by both the other gems and the audience. But as the show goes on, we learn a bit more about her troubled past and some of the horrible things she did. We learn about all the good things she has done too, so you kind of leave it in a very weird spot. I feel like generally people's response to this character is gonna be mixed, but I think that's a good thing. I think that's what it's supposed to be. I also think Steven learns a really good lesson in this movie, one that I think applies to everyone, that even when it seems like all of your problems are solved and that life is going to be a breeze from here on, it isn't going to be. There will always be things out of your control that you'll have to deal with. But how you deal with these things defines who you are, and you need to always be open to the world around you changing, as well as yourself changing. It's a really solid movie that I would recommend to anyone, but definitely watch the show first. It does recap a lot of the show, but it does it in more of a rewarding way to longtime fans of the show, rather than newcomers trying to get an idea of what the show is. But again, I have to stress, it isn't just fan service. All of the callbacks add something to the new narrative it's telling. And I don't think that's always an easy thing to do. Often fan service movies can be really obnoxious with nothing really new to say, and just phoning in on the hopes that, oh, the fans will like it, it's for the fans. They'll like whatever we put in front of them. This movie in no way is a desperate attempt to relive the glory days. I think it adds a lot to the show, a lot to the characters. So yeah, check it out if you can.
My original investment in this was to talk about the music, and I decided that instead of talking about that, love the music, by the way, I'm gonna talk about the character of all time, Spinell, because I just rewatched this movie, and holy shit, she is everything. She is the moment. She is like everything about, like, trauma and abandonment, and how trauma warps your sense of reality. Steven doesn't want to hurt Spinell, he doesn't want to do anything to harm her in any way, he just wants her, you know, like he wants with all of his villains, he wants them to change, and, you know, change for the better. But Spinell was not only abandoned, but she was lied to about being abandoned. She was essentially replaced. Even though she trusts him for just a minute, she trusts him for just long enough for her to go on this downward spiral. By the way, speaking of the music, one of the best parts of the soundtrack that you've got Downward Spiral, which you can hear not only like as Spinell is you know, going like out of control, she's reverting back to all of her memories of being abandoned, of being left behind. But you can hear it in the beginning of other friends. You can hear it in Drift Away. You can hear that same sound, like that futuristic kind of sound. I don't even know what to call it. The second he turns his back and focuses on someone else, her mind starts making these things up. She's thinking, this is it. I'm being abandoned again. This is happening again. And she goes into, as the soundtrack says, a downward spiral. Because why would anyone want her? If they weren't using her, why would anyone want her? How could anyone just love her for her? Why would Steven love her if he has all these friends? If the one person she thought loved her more than anything in the world abandoned her and couldn't love her, how could anyone? Her character and this story, it hit home for me, and I think it does for a lot of people, because a lot of us have had someone in their life that they just kept trying and trying to be good enough for, and it just they never stuck the landing, no matter how hard they tried, and it hurts. And I think she is such a great representation of that kind of hurt. Her as a character, and just like her design and the way that she acts, it's all entertaining. It's all wrapped up in this like really nice bow, but like what she represents is absolutely heartbreaking. I think if you have ever been through something like that, you know, you would see herself. I can't fucking talk right now. I just got over watching the movie and being an emotional wreck about it, so you would see yourself in her, is what I'm saying. This warped reality that she has, where everybody's out to get something. This kind of warped reality, it makes you hurt people. And that line that she says, like, why do I want to hurt you so bad? I'm supposed to be a friend. I just want to be a friend. And I found that, you know, the way that trauma manifested in me personally is like anxiety, but it's all the same kind of hurt. And she desperately wants to make people happy. It is literally and figuratively her purpose. And that has to be soul crushing. That when she learns about Pink abandoning her, and when she has to relive that over again, she's directionless. She is literally without purpose. Her entire existence, her entire meaning for being alive is to be a friend, was to make Pink happy, just to make anyone happy. This is the character of all time. This is the best. I'm not. Oh my god, Michael's gonna be so mad at me when this is what I sent him.
Mad? Why would I be mad?
This is the best. This is the character of all time. You see her come back in and she's all happy-go-lucky, and you have to wonder what fucking happened to her. And that ride the movie takes you on, it really makes you feel for her, right? I'm so glad she just got to live in a castle and be, you know, chilling with the diamonds. I think that's right for her. I think she should be allowed to do that. Holy shit. If you ever get a chance to make it through Steven Universe and watch this movie, do it. You're gonna love it. I guarantee it. Michael is gonna be so mad at me when it's just this incoherent nothingness. But this is it. This is me raw. This is me raw, just having watched the movie. So, this is what you're gonna fucking get. This is the raw, true emotion. It's me trying not to cry. Yeah, if you also want to cry or try not to cry, I highly recommend this movie. Alright, as Michael would say, peace.
I have received so many requests for the movies from Big City Green or Twin Peaks, but no, you're getting Impractical Jokers. I promise to mainly focus on requests, but I've gotta throw in some morbid curiosity picks here and there. Like, how the fuck are they gonna make an Impractical Jokers movie work? The answer is they don't really. I had some optimism with the popularity of the Jackass movies. It seems that it is possible to make a movie out of something like this, maybe just up the pranks a bit, do the same thing as the show but with a bigger budget and crazier shit happening. But honestly, Impractical Jokers doesn't really do that at all. There's a punishment for Sal and Murr that goes a little further than the show normally does, but it's mostly just like watching an episode of the show. And you know what? I like the show. Impractical Jokers is good for a laugh. The four friends work off each other pretty well and they can be pretty fun to watch. As a result, the movie isn't terrible. The parts of the movie that are like the show are still funny. I especially like the part where they're doing job interviews. Sal had to pretend to be a flat earther and Joe had to leave the interview to go play basketball with the interviewer watching. Pretty typical stuff you would see on the show, but they all sell it well. It's funny. Not all the pranks are good. I honestly think the first one is more uncomfortable than funny. Sal, let that child go! But enough of them work. The way the Impractical Jokers movie tries to separate itself from the show is by having a lot of scripted segments. Mainly at the start of the movie and the end of the movie, and it's really night and day. The scripted parts of this movie are terrible. It's almost unwatchable. Most of the movie is just the pranks, so most of it is at least entertaining. But it could also just be a regular episode of the show, so you start to question why they even bothered making a movie. The first 15 minutes is like an origin story for them, and it also sets up their main dilemma, which is they fucked with Paula Abdul at one of her concerts, and now she wants revenge. The last 15 minutes also focuses on this, and it's just lame. I feel like if they wanted to do a story, it should have still all been improv, like really try to make it match the show. The real life versions of these guys are just messing with each other, and you can get laughs out of it from not only them embarrassing each other, but also just them interacting with each other. Their ability to make each other laugh is a little contagious, you know? And it's because they are genuinely friends, and they do genuinely have good chemistry with each other. There's a reason the show has been on for so long. But when it's scripted, it just comes off as really mean-spirited. It's an exaggerated version of who they are, and nothing they say sounds like them anymore. I think the only scripted part of the movie I enjoyed was the reveal of who the big loser is. Another part of the movie's story is they are on a road trip to see a Paula Abdul concert because she saw them and didn't recognize them as the people who messed with her show in the past, but as the Impractical Jokers, which she's a big fan of. She gives them tickets, but they only have 3, so they use the show as a way to determine who doesn't get to go to the concert. You know, tonight's big loser's punishment is they just don't get to go see a concert. I think that's why they had to throw punishments throughout the movie without their really being a big loser, because just someone not getting to go see a show isn't really that entertaining of a punishment, and you definitely want higher stakes for the movie in terms of the pranks you're doing, or at the very least to match the show. Spoilers for the Impractical Jokers movie if you really care, but Murr loses and they treat him losing and being left behind as like this sad third act moment. You know, that sad scene before they hit the climax? And I think that was pretty funny. Wait a fucking second, I'm only noticing this now in editing. Why the fuck is Will Ferrell there? They bring like no attention to that. That's just Will Ferrell in the background. I think it being Murr who lost is what made it funny. I almost feel like that was pre-planned. Like they just filmed long enough to ensure Murr would lose enough challenges so they could make him the loser. Because I can't imagine this scene having the same impact if it was anyone else. Murr's always kind of been the punching bag of the show, so him being the one who gets left behind, yeah, that works. They even have Murr making it to the concert anyways by pulling off the same stunt they did at the start of the movie, which was a decent way to bring things to a close, but again, it's just not all that funny. There's an especially forced moment where the 3 friends are talking about how, oh, it's not the same without Murr, I wish Murr was here, but then when Murr shows up, they speak happily amongst each other, but then when they actually walk up to Murr, they act like they're angry he's at the show because he broke the rules, and they start tearing into him. Them messing with Murr on the show is funny because it's essentially brotherly love. It's just guys messing with each other, but when you script it and make it this exaggerated version of themselves, it doesn't come off the same way. I've seen the show, this is not how they act at all.
You just had to come, didn't you?
Unmitigated goal, bro. I mean, you lost and you show up? What about the rules?
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna pass go and collect $200? We're breaking rules?
I can't say it's a good movie because everything that makes it a movie is terrible, but everything that makes it an episode of the show works. So it's not a terrible experience, but I just can't personally recommend it. Just watch the show. You get the pranks about the boring ass story. It's better than Drawn Together's movie, I'll give it that. Alright, let's once again end this with our current ranking of the movies that have been discussed so far. The Drawn Together movie, the movie. Yeah, good luck leaving last place. Impractical Jokers, the movie. Blue Mountain State, The Rise of Thadland. Beavis and Butthead, Do America. El Camino, a Breaking Bad movie. Regular Show, the movie. The Simpsons movie. The Bob's Burgers movie, Invader Zim, Enter the Florpus, Steven Universe the movie, the SpongeBob SquarePants movie, South Park, Bigger, Longer, Uncut. I don't think this top 2 will be changing anytime soon, but we will see.